Well, Alfie Stirling is the chief economist at the New Economics Foundation and is on a Skype call with me right now. Alfie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Martin.
How do you weigh up the wisdom or otherwise of continuing this support?
So I think it's really important that government acts in April to restore our welfare system. We've got a real income crisis in this country right now, which is sort of being partly ignored, or at least not given the attention it's due because of obviously the even larger public health crisis that we're facing. But of course, the two are interlinked. And if people can't afford to isolate, it endangers all of our health as well. We're actually on course now to have an increase in the number of families that are in at high risk of deprivation on that poverty threshold of about 2.6 million. So it's a 2.6 million increase number of families on that line by the spring, unless the Chancellor acts.
Can we afford it as a nation?
Absolutely can. I mean, in fact, most of the economic modelling that's been done around this shows that we're better off if we get this money into people's pockets than if we didn't. And the reason for that is that jobs in the economy, whether that's retail or whether that's future jobs, when we begin to unlock, will all be supported as long as families have money in their pockets to be able to spend. And of course, that brings back tax receipts as well. Right now, when you're in a recession, cutting back spending by families actually just shrinks everyone's activity together, and that hits the economy and the public finances at the same time.
One of the contrary arguments is it reduces motivation to find work. How do you assess that?
I mean, there's 2 points here. The first one is that financial incentives to work are a very narrow part of what drives people to find work. There are all sorts of reasons why people, in terms of well-being, having identity, finding occupation, are all things that people seek work for. But actually, the key problem right now is there aren't jobs. People are social distancing. The government is asking people not to go to work if they can avoid it, unless they can work from home. Many jobs, of course, can't be worked remotely, and the jobs just aren't there for people. So it's really critical the government puts in place the financial support right now in order for people to do that while they're not at work. At the New Economics Foundation, we're proposing an increase in what people can get as soon as they need that income of £227 a week, which is about what people need in order to make sure they're not falling below that minimum level of socially acceptable living standards.
Help me just understand that. You're recommending a further increase of 227 or to build the basic UC payment to that level?
That's right. So our modelling has shown that if you have this £20 uplift and it's not taken away in April, then you can make sure that that number of people falling below the poverty threshold falls from about 2.6 billion to 1.7 million. But we've shown that if you actually go further and make sure that main payment is actually 3 times higher, £227 a week, but targeted at those that most need it, you can drive down that number much, much closer to zero.
Oh, no. Well, the trick to that, it would be in the targeting. The difficulty would be in the targeting, isn't it? The whole point of Universal was it was supposed to simplify the benefit system.
That's right. So we believe there's a quite straightforward mechanism for doing this. At the moment, you receive £90 as your main payment for universal credit. That could be trebled roughly to £227, and it could be paid non-means tested at the point of access. So people can come forward and receive that payment very quickly without a means test to start with. But then what you can do is through the existing means tested system and through exchanging information with HMRC, you can make sure that anyone that didn't that has income above a certain level can pay back some of that payment next year in tax. So it acts as a bridging loan for those that have a higher income, and acts as a welfare payment targeted for those that need it, for those that don't have a higher income.
And the net cost to the state of this plan is what?
That would be around about £10 billion a month, so a quarter of what we're currently spending on furlough, but wouldn't last for so long. It would only last while we're currently in this crisis. And in fact, the work that's been done both by others on furlough and ourselves is that it saves money in the long run, because that money, of course, doesn't just sit there. These people, these families, that they spend that on essentials, which in turn goes to support jobs and pay tax receipts.